So I'll say the reflection that came from, that Bran Lennox preached, was one that I had to just like take many deep breaths during, going, okay, this is getting right to the core, and I had to go back and watch it again. And I think in many ways my reflection tonight builds on what Bran offered like a couple years ago on Zoom. So just want to thank them. Every now and then, I open a book up to a random page and try and seek meaning in whatever words that book opens to. I suspect this practice started during long services in synagogue on Saturday morning. So when I get to hour like 2 out of 3.5 or 4, I start flipping restlessly to the readings in the back of the book or the Bible there. It started when I'd probably had lost interest in whatever was going on in the service and was trying to be entertained. But eventually it evolved into a ritual with real spiritual significance for me. Each time I'd open the book to some page, and that was my text for the day. I approached whatever poem or story I landed on with the questions, what is this here to teach me, and what is here for me to learn? It wasn't until seminary years later that I learned there's a really similar practice in Christianity called Lectio Divina, which just means divine reading. It became an especially fun challenge when I read one of those especially difficult or bizarre passages that you get in the Bible. You know, you open it and you get lists of so-and-so begat so-and-so who begat so-and-so. Or, you know, many-page discussions about how you diagnose leprosy and what you do about it. A few years ago, as I was packing up for a move, I came back to this practice. And again, I was probably avoiding packing and seeking spiritual guidance, but honestly procrastinating. So I picked a book up off the shelf, and as I brought it toward the cardboard box to pack it, it fell open to a page somewhere around the middle, and the book was a Tanakh, a Hebrew-English Bible. It opened to Psalms, and I read words from Psalm 139. God, you have examined me and know me. When I sit down or stand up, you know it. You discern my thoughts from afar. You observe my walking and reclining and are familiar with all my ways. There's not a word on my tongue, but that you, God, know it well. You support me before and behind. You lay your hand upon me. It is beyond my knowledge. It is a mystery. I cannot fathom it. Where can I escape from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I descend to the pit, you are there too. If I take wing with the dawn to come to rest on the western horizon, even there your hand will be guiding me. Your right hand will be holding me fast. It was you who created my conscience. You fashioned me in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am awesomely, wondrously made. Your work is wonderful. I know it very well. That line, I praise you, for I am awesomely, wondrously made. Your work is wonderful. I know it very well. What is this here to teach me? What am I here to learn? I noticed that when I read those words, I paused in my reading and sighed. Do I actually know that I'm awesomely, wondrously made? You know, not most days. I have lived with chronic illnesses and disabilities for most of my life, and day to day, I tend to focus on my limitations and finding ways to work around them to do the things I want to do. But this bumps up against my theology and my understanding of what we're here for. I believe that we're each here to uniquely contribute to the world, to give the gift that only we can give. But the way that I was telling the story in my own head, I offer things to the world despite my physical limitations. Or I find a way to answer my calling despite. But if I am awesomely, wondrously made, that would mean that my body was awesomely and wondrously made, disabilities and all. What if the thing that we are here to contribute is not despite our limitations, but because of them? I think of this visual artist that I like named Vered Otmi. We've got pictures of her work. Vered is an Israeli artist who paints these grand and intricate patterns that always catch my eye. There are interwoven vines and filigree and elaborate designs. I learned that at one point, Vered had been treated for breast cancer. As part of her recovery after a mastectomy, her occupational therapist encouraged her to start painting again, but painting with both hands as a way of building up strength after her surgeries. And the results are these incredible symmetrical patterns that became her signature style. And she now especially hires folks who have lived with cancer to work in her studio. This thing that could have been a burden that she worked around or waited out until life got back to normal, or a thing that could have had her stop making art altogether, instead she let it teach her. She let her illness and her recovering body shape the art she made, making not only some of the most stunning artwork that I've seen in person, but building community around it for folks who were going through what she'd been through. I think also of Temple Grandin. We've got a photo of her too. Temple Grandin was born in 1947, and she barely spoke a word until she was 4 years old. She had autism. Temple would fixate and obsess over things, had trouble recognizing others' emotional states, and would get set off into panic attacks that the rest of the world had trouble understanding. But what she also had was an incredible visual mind. She thought in pictures rather than in words. You might have seen an opinion essay she published in the New York Times recently about this idea of being a visual thinker. What are you doing down there, Sully? Evie, can you help him with the, thank you. Sully likes to make a nest out of his mat, but he's not very good at it. Yeah, disability service dogs have taught me a lot about living fully with disabilities. Okay, so back to Temple Grandin. She had a visual mind. As a teenager in the 1960s, Temple stayed on with her aunt at a cattle farm. While watching the ranchers herd up some really agitated cows to give them inoculations, she noticed that the cows calmed down when they were put into these squeeze chutes. It's this metal contraption that would help hold the cows in place so they could have their vaccinations. Temple reasoned that the pressure surrounding the animals helped calm their overstimulated nerves. During a panic attack of her own, Temple ran to a squeeze chute one day and put herself inside it. With the walls closed snugly around her, her agitation and anxiety began to ease, and she found calm. She ended up building a version of this, what she called hug machine, for herself as a support system as she worked her way through college and graduate school. And it's a design that's still used to help people with sensory processing problems. I think of this every time I put on my weighted blanket. Because of Temple's visual memory and her incredible detail recall, she was able to reimagine how cattle handlers could work with the cows in more humane ways. And people thought she was crazy. She herself experienced firsthand what anxiety and feeling threatened by everything in your surroundings could feel like, which gave her a special kind of empathy for these cows. It led her to become one of the first scientists to report that animals are sensitive to visual distractions in their handling facilities, like shadows or dangling chains or waving flags, details that a lot of neurotypical people just didn't notice. She studied the cows' behavior and the way they react to the world around them, and she built adaptive curved corrals to reduce the animal's stress, panic, and injury. Her groundbreaking humane interventions are now used by a majority of the cattle handlers in North America. And she's become a world-renowned professor and lecturer on both autism and animal handling. In her 2010 TED Talk, Temple reflected that, quote, in a normal human mind, language covers up the visual thinking that we share with animals. But the world, she says, needs all kinds of minds. I look at these examples, and I think about this concept from Kabbalah, from Jewish mystical teachings. There's this teaching that before they're born, the souls of children choose their parents. They choose this moment in time, this family, this body to be born into, because there's something that that soul needs to learn from that particular life, or something that the world needs from that particular soul. I don't know if I believe that my soul chose this, nor do I know if I believe in a God who fashioned me before I was born and supports me wherever I go, like the Psalm says. But I don't think it actually matters if I believe it. If I try it on, if my soul did choose this body because there was something for me to learn, what might it be? If I am alive at this moment in time, in this place, what might the world need from me? So I invite you to try this on with me for a moment. Pick some limitation that you've felt has been holding you back. Something that happened in your life, perhaps, or something else that you might say constrains you. Just sit with it for a moment. And I acknowledge the courage it takes to look at it. What is this here to teach me? What is here for me to learn? What if your life's work and purpose were not despite that limitation, but part of the unique contribution that you are here to make? What if you, your body, the way your mind works, the way your heart loves, were not a mistake or an accident? What if you were awesomely, wondrously made? If that were true, what is the next thing for you to do? Let's do it together. Beloveds, what if you, your body, your mind, your heart were not made as a mistake or an accident? What if you were awesomely, wondrously made? What longs to happen through you? We were all born infinitely whole, and we are each enough just exactly as we are. Let it shine through you.